All right, y'all. Welcome, family. No need to wait. Just going to jump right off into it as we look at Israel and America and how this combination it equals oppression around the world. I don't know if anyone can deny that. Thank you all for coming into the live. So, in the image above, you can see where Trump is dressed up as Uncle Sam and he's giving the thumbs up. And you can see with Netanyahu how he's dressed up in his all white Israeli suit with the stars, and how both he and in this image, it's, someone of a darker complexion, but he's looking at Netanyahu like, for real? Like, you really gonna try to pretend like you me? And there's a degree of fear on Netanyahu's face in this image. But the concept of, racism within America, or looking at Donald Trump with, thumbs up, as you see this image of a black male in handcuffs. And you look at what they're trying to do in America when they talk about, make America great again. Like, what does that really mean? And they say, no, it has nothing to do, with you being in handcuffs again or returning to slavery. But you can take that image of a black man, air quote, and you can put a Palestinian there. You can put an Iranian there. You can put a Cuban in that image. You can put a Haitian in that image. The point is, when you look at the combination between America and the state of Israel, globally, it equals oppression. For somebody, for some people, it's going to be oppression, because when they come in, they want to occupy, or they want to establish a puppet and or a regime or government that's going to bend to their every will. These are the things that we have to deal with right now in this day and time, in this world. So I want to thank you all for coming, into the live. I just tell you, tap the screen. That part doesn't cost anything. And also, that's how you show your support for the live. And you can share the live and you can repost the live. Because this concept of oppression that's worldwide. Now listen, black folks in America have been dealing with it, for over 4,000 years. Now, when I say for over 4,000 years, I'm not talking about 4,000 years in America. But when you trace the lineage of what you call the black folks, you'll come to find that throughout history, even as they came into the American landscape, they have been dealing with this idea and or, this concept of oppression, right? So, we come to recognize most recently here in America, we've dealt with the oppression. 250 years of it. So I don't really know what you all are getting ready to celebrate. You're still in captivity. You're still slaves. You're just a different type of slave. And I know for a number of people, it's hard to talk about this because you have good jobs now. You have homes. You have, you have money. You have things that make you feel as if you're free. But you're not free. You're on a leash. So, when we look at the scope of oppression and globally how it's run, you want to say, oh, the Iranians are being, oppressed. And this is the narrative that they push, even with the American pragmatism, American politics. But the whole point and or intent for the American regime, the American government, like right now, they're talking about taking over Cuba. You all, this is all about the resource and all about having people, countries, under their total control, under their process, under their procedures. And you all don't seem to find, an issue with this. Thank you all for coming, into the live, right? Share the live, repost the live. We're going to talk about this again tomorrow, also. I'm just coming up at this point in time tonight, to just test it and see, how you all are vibing to it. And then there's rumor that the U.S. and Israel are trying to merge to some degree. If that rumor is true, we have to really scrutinize what a merge is. It means one takes over the other. So if it's true, based on the merger, who's being, taken over? Is Israel being taken over, or is America being taken over? So I just say, from this standpoint, it's a rumor. But I've seen different videos or they've been sent to me where folks are concerned, that some merger within the concept of the military and things are, looking to take place. But a merger means one is taking over the other. But still, when these two come together, it can only mean oppression. When they come in, they're going to occupy the land. And if necessary, if need be, they will become the people of that land and they will hijack the heritage. We have real examples of this when you talk about $5 Indians and when you talk about white Hebrew Israelites in what you call the Middle East. These are real examples. Even when you look at Australians and, how, they consider themselves South Africans. And, these are people that come in and they look to hijack the heritage. What's the name of that movie you all about the moon? It was something the moon, but it was about a Native American tribe that had oil on the land, and Europeans devised a plan to get that land. And the only way they could get it was to marry the women, to then, to where they could have access, to it. But this is what they do. They'll come in. They don't have any honor or any integrity. Their whole aim and or goal is to collect the resource. And if they have to become you, if they have to lie, cheat, and steal, that's what they will do. Thank you all for coming into the live. Share the live. Repost the live as we look at Israel and America, how this combination equals oppression worldwide. And I just said in this image above, you can put a Palestinian in between these two. You can put an Iranian in between these two. You can put a Cuban in between these two. You can put so many different other nationalities and or people in between these two. And their aim and or goal is to deal with controlling nations, their resources, only to continue making their families and their people more wealthy. This is what's happening across the globe as, we look at the way things, are moving. Somebody says we are against. I'm not sure what you're saying, what you're against, but, make yourself clear. All right. But anyway, when we talk about the rulership of a America or a state of Israel, they don't rule from any standpoint of law. Nope, they don't. They have a policy. They have procedures. That's it. They may create a statute, but all of these things are things that they create. They don't rule from any standpoint of law because they don't want to subject themselves to any law. Somebody say I'm living in the past. Who says this? El Gallofino. They say I'm living in the past. What past am I living in? This is happening right now. My people are still being oppressed. Palestinians, are being oppressed. The Cubans are being oppressed. How is that the past? Right? See, there are a lot of people in the comments right now that, victimhood. I'm glad you said that. They said victimhood suits you well. Let's see who said that. Oh, I'm glad you said that because I hadn't got to that point just yet. Ari Feeney or whatever your name is. I'm glad you said that. Victimhood. He said victimhood suits you well. I'm glad you said that because when the white Hebrew Israelites tell you to remember October the 7th, and when they tell you to remember the Holocaust and what happened, you never say they're playing the victim. I guess victimhood suits them just as well because they get acknowledged for playing the victim. But when I talk about what happens to me and my people and how it's happening right now today, you say, I'm playing the victim. Well, if that's the case, you need to acknowledge the white Hebrew Israelites, Netanyahu and the state of Israel for playing the victim. Because they're rewarded for playing the victim, aren't they? I bet you sit your ass down and shut up now. Because you can't validate the fact of how they play the victim and want you to remember October the 7th and whatever has happened within the Holocaust and World War II. And they want you to remember that. It doesn't matter that it didn't happen hundreds of years ago talking about, it's the fact that it happened. Somebody want to say October the 7th didn't happen hundreds of years ago. Okay? Neither has what happened to us. It's still happening to this day. But that's just your ignorance and where you need to be re-educated. But I'm glad you brought that part up about playing the victim, because we need to acknowledge how good the white Hebrew Israelites play the victim and get away or get rewarded for doing it. I'm trying to keep up, with the comments as I go, because y'all dropping, them comments real hard, real quick. Right? Somebody says, I enjoy learning, from you. Okay, well, I do enjoy finding the information and or the research. So I want to put this out there. There's a video on the internet that explains from 1915 to 1938, you all. I'm not going to play the video today. I may play it another day. But from 1915 to 1938, you have all these different newspapers, from the New York Times to the Atlanta Journal, Constitution. But you have all these newspapers, and there's all these reports about 6 million Jews being persecuted. And the papers allege from 1915 all the way up to 1938. This was before World War II took place. And man, this information is out there. And now they want to act as if none of that is true and none of those newspapers are real. But you can Google it, right? 6 million Jews, 1915 to 1938, and you'll see the different posts that pop up, and you'll see the guy that break out all of the newspapers, and he show where they claim from 15 all the way up to 38 how 6 million Jews are being persecuted, or something's happening to 6 million Jews. Well, two things I look at. If it was 6 million Jews then, and then finally in World War II, where you actually had, the conversation of the Holocaust, there were 6 million Jews, there should be no more left. If it's always 6 million and then 6 million were, their lives were taken during the Holocaust, well, how do you have any more left? And then the other conversation was that the 6 million was only half, of the Jews. So how is it that they can run this number from 1915 all the way up to 1938? No one questions, this as some type of, political maneuver. This is just my observation. So I want to thank you all for coming, into the live. Tap the screen. That part don't cost nothing. Share the live, repost the live. But it's about time, for these lying white Hebrew Israelites to be exposed. And how they're in that region, which they most recently called the Middle East, to destabilize that region, to disrupt that region. These are nothing but Europeans claiming to be Jews, refusing the fact that they converted either through Hyrcanus or, Maccabees, Judas Maccabees. They say that's preposterous. They deny the fact that they're Ashkenazi Jews. They deny, the fact that they're Khazarian. No, that's not them. All of that history, though, that's fabricated, all lies. But these people across the board and throughout time have done nothing but hijack heritage whenever necessary. No different than in the United States, they became the Indians, $5 Indians. And over in the Middle East, they became the Jews. Same thing. Thank you all for coming into the live. But they don't want to talk about, that part of it. They don't want to deal with that part of it. And even in that video where it talked about the different newspapers from 1915 all the way up to 1938, there was one, especially with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, where they acknowledged the Jews in Europe and the Jews that were in Jerusalem at that time. Well, if you watch the videos for 1925 of the Jews that were in that region at that time, they were black. They were dark-skinned. Two different people. But they try to sweep that part under the rug. And this is where what the Egyptian president at that time, Nasser, when he said, how is it they left a dark complected people and they came back very pale? And this is why they're not acknowledged by so many different nations, because in truth, they're only there to disrupt the region. They're only there to remove the Muslims. That's the aim and or the goal, because if they can control and or conquer the Muslims in that region, then it just gives them that much more land, and or it gives them that much more control throughout the world. Their aim as Europeans, for lack of a better expression, because they go by different names, they go by different nationalities, but in the end, these are just Europeans that do what they do: lie, cheat, and steal. And if they need to say that they are you or they are another people, like I said, don't be surprised if 20 years, 30 years from now, you have Europeans claiming to be Palestinian so that they can have claim to the region in Gaza. They'll move them in no different than they moved them into the Americas. No different than how they moved themselves into the region to say that they were the Judeans. This is what they do. And they played the victim very well. They want you to remember, and they say never forget. Well, what is it that we're supposed to never forget? The lying, the cheating, the stealing, the oppression. And then they say stop the hate. They got this campaign going around with the blue sticker and the stop the hate thing going on. Well, stop the hate. You stop the hate. Stop hating black people. Stop hating Palestinians. Stop hating, those that are in Lebanon. Abandon your Greater Israel project. Stop the hate. These people are hypocrites. Y'all need to be re-educated. No one wants to tell the emperor that he has no clothes on. As you all walk around and you praise an American president and you act as if what he's doing is so great, no one wants to tell the emperor he don't have no damn clothes on. Thank you all for coming, into the live. These conversations are not well promoted and or respected on this platform, but this is why I have my platform, to make certain that these discussions can be held. And there's nothing a white Hebrew Israelite and or a Zionist and or a MAGA or a lover of Trump, whether you're black, white, red, brown, yellow, Puerto Rican, there's nothing you can say against these atrocities. And just because you're black, white, brown, yellow, or Puerto Rican, and you agree with a state of Israel, or you agree, with Trump, you're just a minion. They're using you. The blacks that are for Trump or for Israel, they're using you. And they pay you off so that you can be the face to say, see, we're not racist. We're not oppressing people. Look, we got black friends. We have black allies. We have Puerto Rican allies. We have Latino allies. You all are the fools, but they spend billions of dollars to have your interest, and you're the sellout. So anybody that think God is going to make America great again, you're a fool. Anybody that think Trump is doing a good job, you're a fool. Anybody that supports the white Hebrew Israelites in the state of Israel, you're a fool. And ultimately, it's going to land on your doorstep, especially the Arabs, like Saudi Arabia. See, when you look at the Greater Israel Project in Jordan, right now they're dealing with Lebanon, but after that, they're coming for Saudi Arabia and they're coming for Jordan because that's all a part of their Greater Israel Project. And they're just pacing themselves, right now, and dealing with who they think they can strong on. The Iranians was a jack in the box, a surprise. They thought they could strong on the Iranians, but it didn't work. Like they think they're going to go in and strong arm the Cubans like they strong arm the Venezuelans. Like they strong arm the Palestinians. This is what they do. They're settlers. And before you know it, they say they're the people that they've come in and have taken over their land. They'll say they're Cuban. They'll say they're Palestinian. They'll say they're Judean. They'll say they're Indian. They'll say whatever the hell they think they need to say. This is just who they are. Thank you all for coming into the live. The stage is open for anybody that wants to come up and share your thoughts. You all know how we do it. I may disagree with you, but I'll listen to you. And let others, listen to you. Right? But when you look at this image, there's a air quote black man in this image being accosted, both in America and in the state of Israel. But again, like I said, you can change that image out. And you can put a Palestinian in there, an Iranian in there, a Cuban, a Haitian. You can put whatever you want to put in there. You can put whoever you want to put in between these two figures, when you talk about America and when you talk about the state of Israel, it's going to equal oppression. Folks don't like, this discussion from this standpoint because it's not politically correct. I'm not here to be politically correct. I'm here because my people are still being oppressed. And I was so happy when somebody said, playing the victim suits you well. Because then it allowed me to bring out how well the white Hebrew Israelites play the victim and have been playing the victim. You go all the way back to 1915 with the news articles, they're playing the victim. Oh, but you never tell them to stop playing the victim because you're a racist or you're a hypocrite. These folks been playing the victim. Now, tell them to stop playing the victim. You like to let that just so flippant come off your mouth or out your lips. Tell them to stop playing the victim. Tell them to stop mentioning October the 7th, or tell them to stop mentioning the Holocaust. But you won't do that because you're in agreement with the oppression over other people. Somebody said, may I ask respectfully, who are your people? Well, if you don't understand the answer to that question, then just keep it moving. Kick rocks. Because it sounds like you need to be re-educated. Okay? So I'm trying to see some of these comments as, I'm expressing within, this discussion, right here as well. But what do you say? Yeah, well, when you look at what's happening in America, oppression is still taking place. Although folks have good jobs, folks have nice homes, they have clothing, they have vehicles. That's just a different type of slave in this day and time, because the people in America are not free. If they were free, they wouldn't be subjected to the loss of a civil right, the loss of a voting right. That's not the implication of a free people. That's the implication of a controlled people. Anytime someone provides you with a privilege and they take it away from you, that means you're being controlled. The problem is, folks have heard terminology such as civil right, and because it says right on the end of it, you've mistakenly thought it was a right. Well, it's a glorified right, it's a privilege. The voting right, it's a glorified right, but it's a privilege, which means those in power and or position at any time, they can take it away. That's not freedom. And here we are, still being a people, being ruled and or governed by another people. And for some reason, you all think you can vote your way in or out of this. You're a fool. I just have to say it like that because this is their system. This is their democracy. The only thing we can do is liberate ourselves. They're never going to allow you to have any power in their democracy, in their system. I know I wouldn't allow you to have any power in my system that's meant to benefit me. I will not allow you to come into my house and take control. And this is what people are thinking they can do. You think you can come into their system of democracy where they've made themselves the majority and you think you can overturn them. They're not going, I wouldn't let it happen. This is why they mathematically deal with what you call gerrymandering, and or even within the Constitution, how they considered you 3/5 of a person. That's a mathematical equation which says we're only going to count 3 out of the 5. We ain't gonna count the other 2. So that they can maintain balance, power, and or control. And however that number may fluctuate, they'll stay on top of the mathematical equation to make certain they maintain control and authority within their democracy. So all of you that think you can go out and you can vote to get power in their system, you're misguided. You're not going to achieve any degree of power in this system. There are people that establish this for themselves. We are a people that are trying to come out of the captivity and or the enslavement from their system. But over the time, they've tried to make it seem as if we can be a part. We can be equal. We can have equality. All that stuff is lies. Their aim or their goal is to control us as a people like they want to control the Venezuelans, like they want to control the Iranians, like they want to control the Palestinians, like they want to control the Cubans, like they want to control the entire world. Population and people. Let the Europeans be the rulers of the world. And they may go by different names, but they know who they are and who's who and what's what. And they make certain that they honor those families and those peoples, whether they're in Turkey, whether they're in Australia, whether they're in a state of Israel. All of these places they've gone and they've settled. They've colonized these places, and this is why decolonization is so real to this very day. Thank you all for coming into the live. Share the live, repost the live, tap the screen. That's how you show your support for the live. Repost the live, hey, add it to your stories. If anything that I'm saying does not resonate as a truth, then just show me the evidence-based academic research that points otherwise. I'll accept it. In fact, all of what I deal with and what I do is based on evidence-based academic research. This is how I know. The concept of a fraud has been perpetrated throughout time and throughout generations and ages, but it's coming to a head right now. It's hard for a lot of people to accept because the money gets in the way. So the state of Israel They're known for spending billions of dollars, not only to buy politicians, but to buy individuals, to make certain individuals understand how to speak according to certain points that they want them to speak to. And they'll get you black, they'll get you Puerto Rican, they'll get you Palestinian, whoever, Ethiopian, whoever they can get. Just so it can look as if whatever race of people that they put in front of the camera, as if that entire race of people, they're cool with what they're doing. This is an old trick. But the sellouts, you all, they're out there. And we need to be able to acknowledge who these folks are, because the concept of a Judas, it ain't never left. They hang around and they're right there. But if the number is right for them, they'll turn their mother over. Let's see. Here's somebody else talking about playing the victim. Who is this? Said praying for the victim and the survivors of human trafficking. Oh, okay. All right. That's a little different. All right. I can understand that. Okay. All right. But, looking at the atrocities that these people create, looking at how they want to use a concept of law, international law. They want it to apply to every other nationality and or nation of people except them. You all have seen it. You know what I'm talking about. This is why what they're doing is not based on law. What they're doing is based on policy and procedure. And they're subjecting the entire world to their policy and their procedure. And they push law to the side to say, hey, we're going to become the law. And we're going to subject you to our policies and our procedures. And we just need you to agree to it. Because if they were subjecting themselves to law, then Epstein money wouldn't matter. If they were subjecting themselves to law, then, should crimes against humanity happen, they would have to deal with the judgment. But we see and we witness crimes against humanity happening, and they hold themselves immune. And then they show you how the global system is a sham. Because nobody stands up to tell the emperor he don't have no damn clothes on. The UN tries to act like what just happened didn't just happen. Why do we continue to subject ourselves to these entities and to these people and to these concepts that do not benefit us globally? In fact, there are more people being oppressed globally than, there are those that are actually benefiting from, the nature and or the rule of the people that are in front of these heads of states. You see, I don't know what you mean. What are they subjecting themselves to? Wait, he says, what they subjecting themselves to is so dark. Okay. All right. I understand. Well, the main point is these people are responsible for the corruption, for the confusion, For everything that's wrong in the world, these people are responsible for it. Everything. Everything in the world that's wrong, these people are responsible for it because they're the stewards over the world, and they rule the world in corruption. They choose to rule the world in corruption for a personal gain and or benefit. And this is why it has to come to an end. And this is why people across the planet are going to more and more recognize, network, and stand within solidarity to no more deal with the corruption. Oh, I know it seems, very impossible, like it can't happen, but what they're doing cannot be sustained. These people are inferior. And this is why they move under the guise of superiority. But these people will definitely receive the judgment for their actions, for all of the corruption, for all of the life loss. They're not going to escape. And no one wants to tell the emperor he don't have no damn clothes on. All because you all are benefiting, a number of you, because there's a convenience. There's a convenience within this lifestyle. There's a convenience within the money that they provide that you can live one more day comfortable. This is why a lot of the black entertainers and sport figures and those that are affluent, they don't say nothing. Because if they speak against the corruption, then they stand to lose their money. This is why I say you're just a different type of slave now today. You have a nice house. You may have good clothes. You may have money. And you're enslaved to these riches. Like, you can't speak. You can't help your own people. If they find out that you want to help to liberate your people, like, at that point, they start taking the money that they gave you back. Kanye, Kyrie, Colin, Nick Cannon, Colin Kaepernick, Kyrie Irving, Kanye West. All of these individuals were made examples of, like, they thought because they had the paper with the pictures of the slave masters on it that, they could have a voice. And the moment they used that voice, and these folks threatened to diminish the papers with the pictures of the slave masters on it, they set their ass down and they shut up. And when it get too hot, people like Oprah Winfrey or Michael Jordan or Floyd Mayweather or anybody that they think they can put in front of you that seem like they're affluent, they'll stick them up in front of you and say, hey, talk to the people. Say this, say that, and, win their heart and let them know that, this is the way things, are going. And you all fall for that BS every single time. Every single time. I call it the shiny nickel effect. You fall for it every single time. But America, oppressors. The state of Israel, oppressors. Settlers. Have you all forgotten? In the U.S., Yeah, there may have been 13 colonies, and there may have been some treaty that they were dealing with that was outside of England. You all have not come to realize who they were talking to when it comes to the Constitution. You think they were talking to England. They were not. It was a government established already in this land that they were communicating with, but your history forgot to tell you that part. They were not talking to England when they established the 13 colonies. Somebody else recognized them and helped them to be sovereign. You ain't figured that part out yet? You still think they were talking to the King of England? And he said, okay, I'm going to let you be sovereign? That don't make no sense. That's like right now where we are. Looking to be liberated. They're never going to say, okay, you could be liberated. It's never going to happen. Not like that. We'd have to step outside of the scope of their authority and or power to then be recognized by another sovereign. That's how that works. But when you look at it, beyond the 13 colonies, you all, they then said, hey, let's go west. Manifest destiny. That crap wasn't legal, lawful. That was made up. They stole all of that land. Oh, but let's not talk about that part. Manifest destiny was a heist. There's nothing lawful that can uphold manifest destiny. They have no treaty to support it. We can talk about that part. So they will have to give all of that back once being challenged. But they haven't been challenged. We can talk about that part. Hadn't even thought about the history and manifest destiny and how that plays, a part into how they've become who they are to this day, because they lie, they cheat, and they steal. And then they create mischief through law, policy, procedure. Thankfully, these things are recorded based on, their behavior. What does he say? What is worth more? If there was only one on earth, one piece of gold or a person. Yeah, I don't know what your riddle is all about. You just need to go ahead and give us the answer to whatever you're trying to say there. But when you come to decolonization and you look at how land has been occupied and land is still being occupied, although it's been ages and generations, you all, manifest destiny was not lawful. There's no documentation to support it. They just did it. Just like when you look at what you call the Middle East and how they're doing things over in Gaza, there's nothing that lawfully supported. They're just doing it. And they're going to create whatever documentation they think they need to fabricate it being legal. And I think it's very interesting that October the 7th happened. And I know there's another name that the Palestinians actually call it. I wish I knew what that name was. I would use it. But October the 7th, that actually happened. But before that happened, they were being accosted in so many different ways and or manners that when they decided to swing back, it was listed as an attack. No one calls it retaliation. They didn't just wake up one morning and say, let's do this, October the 7th. No, they have been, or they were being abused. No one wants to look at how they were being abused. And see, this is where we come in as a people in America for being abused for ages and generations, and then historically looking to see how our people have been abused for over 4,000 years when we deal with the history. So this oppression thing is not new to us. So when I see the Palestinians being oppressed, I can sympathize with that people. And I stand as a champion to eradicate oppression from the world. Yeah, it appears to be an insurmountable mission, but it's inevitable. And this is why America has made Black people a threat. They've made my people the enemy to their national security. And you all want to go vote. Like you can act like that didn't happen, or you can just vote that away. No, we got to deal with that. Before you go vote, make them respond to what the FBI and or Hoover said, that we're a threat, that we're the enemy. We're a threat to their national security. You can't make it as if these things never happened. Y'all keep trying to turn a blind eye to it, but it's no different than right now they're saying Cuba is a threat to their national security, so they need to go in and stabilize it. What the hell do you think that means as it pertains to us? I know y'all not that ignorant. And you think you can just vote your way in and or out of this. No, we need to deal with this. And stop selling our people short for $100,000, for $1 million, for whatever your number is that you'll sell out, so that you can live an American dream. To hell with this American dream. For too many of us, it ain't nothing but a nightmare. And some folks say, well, just leave. Hell no, you leave. Manifest destiny your ass someplace else. But unfortunately, that seems like I'm asking for you to go and oppress somebody else. So from a biblical prophecy standpoint, your only option is that the evil has to be removed from the earth. In order for people to have salvation, meaning to be rescued from the oppression, to have peace on earth, because with you two jokers, there'll never be peace on earth. There'll never be peace on earth. We'll continue to see the wars and the rumors of wars. We'll continue to see nation rise up against nation. We'll continue to see and hear the lies, the thievery, the oppression. We'll continue to see it. You don't know peace. You can't deliver peace. And none of your kind. So, you are the problem in the world today. You are the problem. And the way we solve the problem based on the biblical prophecy, it speaks to your end. That's the only way we're going to have peace on this earth with respect to righteousness. So something dramatic is sure to happen. You all can tap the screen. That part doesn't cost anything. That's how you show your support, for the live. You share the live and you repost the live. Appreciate you all for following and things of that nature. But we're looking at the problem with America and with the state of Israel and how that brings about oppression. Locally, regionally, nationally, internationally, people are being oppressed. When you look at this image right here, yep, you see a black man, air quote, in that image, but like I said, you can put a Palestinian there, an Iranian, a Cuban, a Haitian. You can put any other nationality of a person in there that you want. The Europeans are seeking control over the entire world. And for that control, you have to be their slave. Oh, they don't say it like that because in America, the slaves are the richest slaves in the world. They got jobs, they got homes, they got cars, and they have a resemblance of freedom. But in the end, they serve the interest of the European paradigm. Their policies, their procedures, their democracy. Folks don't want to talk about it from that standpoint because y'all want to go vote. You believe our ancestors gave their lives so that you can vote. Bull crap. If our ancestors thought that we would be transitioning from one form of slavery to another, they didn't give their lives for that. If anything, they gave their lives so that we could be liberated, so that we could be free, so that we can govern ourselves as a people, not continue kissing the ass of the oppressor for silver, for gold, for coins, for the paper with the picture of the slave masters on it. Appreciate you all for coming into the live. Yep. You're not going to find, this live being promoted to the degree that a number of the other lives are being promoted because we're not speaking to upholding or being politically correct. Let me say it like that. Let me say it that way. And I stand here to say the emperor don't have no damn clothes on. And we need to make that acknowledgement because too many people are afraid to tell the emperor he naked. Appreciate y'all for coming into the live. So again, oppression is real. And although we're now most recently seeing the Palestinians receive the blunt end of oppression, and they don't have anybody coming to their rescue. I say we've dealt with that for ages and generations. I hate, though, that your people are going through this at this point in time, but we've been going through it. And this is why I call to end oppression, and I state that not only locally, regionally, and or nationally, but we must link up internationally to deal with oppression. We all have a common threat. We all have a common threat. This is the common threat. I have no issue for saying it because they're on record saying, I'm a threat. You're a threat. If you're black, you're a threat. And this is the interesting part. Ooh, this is the interesting part. They don't deem any other nationality as big a threat as they do those of us in America. Because they know when we link up and when we organize and when we separate ourselves from the oppression, we then liberate all the other people that are oppressed, because they're going to follow after us no different than they follow after us in everything else on a mundane level. So all of their interest and all of their effort is to make certain that what you call the blacks, air quote, in America, keep them distracted. Give whoever you got to give the $1 million check to, that they'll continue to think they can follow them and they can, get that wealth and they can build generational wealth and they can have black banks. Yeah, let them keep talking about that. As long as they stay within the confines of our policies and our procedures, we're good. When they wake up and they fight for liberation, then they're fighting also to free the Palestinians, the Cubans, the Haitians, the Venezuelans, all the oppressed people around the world. Then that would render them powerless. And that would make us powerful. They understand. They know who we are and they know what's going on. This is just a game that they play right now. But oppression is global, you all. And they play games within this thing called international law, the UN, the European Union. Listen, all of this stuff is about maintaining the superiority of the European. This is an inferior people. And they rule through lies and corruption, deceit. They've never been honest. They always come in peace, and then people start losing their lives. Strange and weird stuff starts happening. People get sick. And then they claim land and resources. And y'all want to keep acting as if it ain't happening. You all want to act as if a vote is going to solve this problem. That democracy is the answer. No. For those of you that wish to play that game, You wish to prolong the agony. You're part of the problem for real, because you're trying to convince your people that just a little more time, and if we get power within their system, then we can do this and we can do that. We'll be able to do nothing in their system. Nothing. Again, you may be able to live comfortable based on the convenience that they've set, but that's not freedom, you all. That's not liberation. That's just a different type of slave. Oh, I know you don't want to deal with it like that, because we're all comfortable right now. It makes me think of the story in the book of Exodus when they were sitting by what they called the flesh pots. And some didn't want to leave for liberation because they were able to sit by the flesh pots. The sound of liberation said that there may be some hardship out there, and if I can avoid the hardship and stay right here by the flesh pots, leave me alone. We're still dealing with that same mindset today. Some of you are saying, we don't want liberation. We want the flesh pots. We want the convenience. We want whatever little crumbs they'll give us. We want to continue acting like we're free. I don't want that. I'm here for the total end to oppression, the total end to corruption. Now, for a number of us, we don't have any idea what that looks like, because all we've seen in our life are the lies, the thievery, the deception, the corruption. That's all we've seen. That's all we've known. That's what we call government. And no matter which country you go to, no matter what head of state you deal with, they're all plagued by it. Because they're all in bed with America, with the state of Israel. So they abide by the rules of corruption, dishonesty. There's no integrity with these people. If you're willing to be corrupt like them, then you'll be rewarded. Thank you all for coming into the live. It's a spiritual warfare, okay. Just remember God is real, okay. Right? But if you talk about even a spiritual warfare, then you have to understand for yourself. You now have to become the change that you want to see. You now have to scrutinize the things that you govern yourself and or you live by. You now have to identify, since you acknowledge that it's a spiritual warfare, you now have to acknowledge that the things that they ask you to do and govern yourself according to, they're wicked, they're corrupt, it's unrighteous. And because you're addicted to these things in this spiritual warfare, you now have to take one step, one day at a time to wean yourself off of that addiction. Otherwise, you're just an addict. Lying to yourself and waiting for the next fix, the next hit. Somebody said we're just pawns to them. That's true. But we don't have to be. We don't have to be pawns, to them. Somebody said, what do you think about Burkina Faso? I mean, what do you think about it? Right? Asking me what I think about Burkina Faso. I mean, what do you think about it? I'm talking about the corruption within a America and a state of Israel that brings about oppression. It also affects Burkina Faso. The brother Ibrahim over there, he's affected by it too. Let's not get too excited before we start calling out these symbolic victories. We're surrounded by corruption. We may have an icon or the appearance of success, but until more of us denounce this corruption, then Burkina Faso, they just waiting to be plucked off. It's just going to be a matter of time. And then a number of you, it's just going to be sensational conversation. He has no real support. Because he's surrounded. They're plotting on him right now. So while you're asking about that, you need to be asking about yourself. Like, what are you going to do to change yourself to become the change that you want to see? That's too much for a number of you because it's work. It means you have to deny yourself of the corruption. A number of you are not ready to do that just yet. Again, because you're addicted to it. And you haven't acknowledged that part just yet. I used the analogy once to where they have these videos of these different cities, and you see these people that are under different substances, and they're all leaned over and they're in these weird positions. And I said, that's us. Spiritually, because we're addicted to the corruption. We're addicted to the unrighteousness. So when we see them out on these streets and they're on that substance, that's an external expression of how we look spiritually, because we're addicted to wickedness and don't really understand it. But if you can hear what I'm saying and you're up for the challenge, then you have to wean yourself off. Otherwise, you're just talking. You ain't going to do nothing. You're here for the sensationalism. You ain't going to do nothing. You ain't about this life. You're not 10 toes down. To be 10 toes down, you have to be sober in your mind. How many of you can honestly acknowledge that you're sober in your mind? That you're fighting, that you're resisting, that you're weaning yourself off of the convenience. Y'all ain't ready. A number of you. You ain't ready. The job pay too good. You ain't ready. You're not ready. And it's okay. I only hope to bring it to your attention that For those of you that are strong enough to do something about it for yourself as far as becoming the change that you want to see, that you can actually start moving toward that. And I'm only speaking from the experience. Oh, I know what it's like. I had to go through it. It's not easy. But I can identify it. I can speak to it. I can assist. But in the end, it's up to you. Yeah. So I just wanted to come up and test. We'll come back tomorrow. We'll come back tomorrow. I'm not sure what this person says, not because you're still crying out about it. I'm not sure what you're talking about. The West is indoctrinated, dumbing down is these weapons they use. Okay. I can't really make out like really what you guys are trying to say, but the West is indoctrinated. And we've all been indoctrinated. But the moment you realize you've been indoctrinated, that's when you can say everything that you've been taught is a lie. Now you can scrutinize everything that you've been taught. At that point, it makes you vulnerable, because a number of us, when you realize you've been indoctrinated, or when you realize everything that you've been taught is a lie, here you are, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, even 80 for some of us, that you come to realize this point. As a grown and or an adult, you become vulnerable, because now you have to re-educate and or be retaught. And here you are, 80 years old. You're vulnerable. 70, 60, 50, 40, 30. All this time you thought you had a handle on it, and now you're realizing it's all been a lie. You're vulnerable. What man wants to live life feeling vulnerable? It becomes difficult, but that's a necessary measure that we have to deal with to then strengthen ourselves. And I'm just telling you, that's a part of the process. You're going to be vulnerable for a short period in time until, you can rearm yourself with proper, appropriate, and just information, correct information. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna kind of, end it. At this point, brothers say 71 here, right? I get it, man. I get it. I get it. But it has to be done, and we have to become the change that we want to see, because nothing changed outside of ourselves. Everything, has to take place within ourselves. And we have to deal with what was put in us when we came out of our mother's womb. And even looking at how they used our mothers to destroy our minds, how they destroyed our mothers' minds. And this is why when we talk about our women, like, I love the point of being able to lift our women up, but let's not do it in vanity. Oh, she a queen, oh, she a god, and the woman and the mama and the this and the that, and to hell with all that. We have to raise our women up with correction. And our women don't like correction. We need to praise our women, but through correction. Some folks don't understand that, because our women have been misleading our children. But when our mothers understand what needs to be taught to the children, then the nation of people, it changes. Oh, don't think they don't understand this. They gave you all the Willie Lynch letters and you sensationalized that. I'm sitting up here telling you the same thing. But you sensationalize the letters. But it's a real thing. And you all watch our mothers, our women, you watch them parade around, and a number of you encourage them to think that they can do no wrong, and y'all need to stop the madness. Just as the men need to be corrected, our women also need to be corrected. In order for us to have a nation, in order for us to be a people, in order for us to have a hand within how our children are moving around and about, there's a verse that say the women are raising monsters. This was written 2,000 years ago. And for me to read it and watch it play out in this day and time, and I understand it's because of the information that we feed one another, we've become monsters. And they have done this by design to maintain control and corruption. But y'all want to deal with it from that standpoint because you think their institutions are the institutions of prestige. Y'all need to go and study American pragmatism. Look at the pragmatics. These folks create systems and facts and whatever they need in order to influence people. It's the Wizard of Oz on steroids. The pragmatism, the pragmatists. It's a game. It's a mental game. Who is this? Let's say victim. Yeah, once again, Bo, Jack, what was his name? Jacqueline Bo. Jacqueline Bo said, we're playing the victim. Go tell that to Netanyahu and the state of Israel. Go tell them, Bo, Jacqueline Bo, go tell them to stop playing the damn victim. Tell them to stop talking about October 7th and the Holocaust. Go tell them to stop playing the damn victim. You won't do that, you dang gone hypocrite. For now, whenever you guys hear somebody say that because we're talking about what we've went through and the oppression that we still go through, and they say we're playing the victim, tell them to go tell that stuff to the state of Israel and to the white Hebrew Israelites who cry victim and tell you never forget and stop the hate and all this. And they're the perpetrators of the hate, especially toward my people. And historically, it's written that they've been the perpetrators of hate against my people. But they lie and they say, oh, we ain't did nothing. We don't control no industries. We don't control no banks. We don't control Hollywood. We don't control the music industry. We don't do nothing. We're just 1% of the population. Yeah. But there's a video out. I thought it was pretty interesting, where there are newspapers listed from 1915 all the way up to 1938. You can Google it on YouTube, right? Go to YouTube and Google 1915 to 1938, 6 million Jews. And hopefully you'll find the article. And if not, maybe tomorrow I can play some of that article, for you. And there are these papers from 1915 all the way up to 1938 where the number 6 million Jews is always thrown out. 6 million Jews being persecuted. Allegedly, that's what it talks about. And these papers speak, to how it says the Russians were doing this and 6 million Jews of that. And it just went on and on and on. And then finally, it stuck after World War II. But I had that question. I'm like, damn, if it's only 6 million Jews after World War II, it shouldn't have been no more. But then there was the other question that, that may have been just half the number. But if that's the case, the biblical script that talk about the Jews being who they are it's a damn lie, because it said these people would be like the sands of the sea, the stars in the sky. How did they calculate that it was only 12 million and 6 million were always being persecuted? Something ain't right. But I know some folks, y'all don't go, that far, and people need to be re-educated. That's all. This is not a popular conversation because we're telling the emperor, go put some damn clothes on. Stop telling them damn lies. Give back what you stole. But a thief, a liar, that's what they do. All right, so I'm gonna shut it off, right there. I appreciate you all for coming in, to the live. And I'm gonna come back tomorrow. Same image, same, topic. I'm gonna try to have a little more information on that video, because I saw that video years ago about the 6 million Jews from 1915 to 1938. I saw that video years ago, and I actually recorded it, or I downloaded it, because I said, I don't know, if they'll actually allow this video to be, around some years later. But now it's hard to actually find the actual video, and you see people doing their own little illustration, from the video, itself. And then, you have some white Hebrew Israelite trying to debunk it, saying it's lies, and what you're reading in the paper, that's not what it's saying. But that's what they do. Right? Somebody says, when will you convert to Islam? I don't need to convert to Islam. I'm not called to convert to Islam. Islam is a heritage for the Ishmaelites. I'm not of the seed of Ishmael. That's not my heritage. In my writings, it says the law of the Lord is perfect. That's going to convert my soul. I'm not interested in religion. I'm interested in my heritage. I'm interested in living according to my laws, my customs, my traditions, my heritage, where he said, honor your mother and your father that your days be long in your land. So to honor my mother and my father is not about these religions that men have made. To honor my mother and my father would be to stand on my heritage, which have been hidden or, it's been like taken, and so much has been done to prevent us from understanding our heritage. And we've been given the traditions of men, the religions of men. So I'm not converting to nothing within the fabrications of the religion that men have created. but I'll stand by my heritage. I'll stand according to the laws and the customs and traditions according to my heritage. To hell with your religion. This guy's a fool. He says, so you're an atheist. This guy's a fool. All right. No, you're an atheist. You're an atheist. So one thing I realize is there's just some people you can't talk to, and whatever you're fishing for, if what I'm saying, if you don't get it, then just go someplace else. I mean, this is not the place for you. You obviously don't belong here. You obviously don't understand what's being talked about. So just go someplace else where, you know, it makes sense, you know, to you. Right? Let's see. Okay, well, great. You say there's nothing to get about what I'm saying. Okay, great. Well, then stop asking damn questions and take your cell phone someplace else. Leave me alone. You know, leave the chat alone. Find something else to do. It's damn 10:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go someplace else. Please. You have permission to leave. Yep, somebody said they're paid to distract you from educating folks on the truth. Well, there's no distraction right now because I'm actually done. And, you know, at this point, we're going to come back to it, you know, tomorrow, and we're going to pick up on the concept of the video. Maybe by then some of you will have found it and you'll see, you know, what it is that I'm talking about, how they cried 6 million Jews from 1915 all the way up to 1938, and it finally stuck, you know, after World War II. So tell them to stop playing the damn victim. All right. So, but that's it, y'all. Thank you. For wherever you are, good night, good morning, good evening. You all be safe. Make sure you follow me and look for the pop-up tomorrow. I'm not sure what time, you know, I'm going to do it just yet, but look for the pop-up, you know, tomorrow. And we'll continue talking about oppression, you know, that's around the world and how it's affecting, you know, our people. Who's the cause, you know, of this oppression? And then, like, what do we have to do in order to remove ourselves from this oppression? Because that's going to be the task. Like, individually, what we have to do, and stop looking, you know, at it externally and collectively, because first is individual. Individually, we have to come to realize what needs to be done. Then we can line up and stand on principle. But until then, there's nothing that we can stand up and or align ourselves with, because everybody's going to have their own thought, their own way, and this, that, and the other. And that's what they bank on. They live for that right there, that we'll stay arguing and bickering about nothing. That just gives them one more second, one more minute, one more hour, one more day, one more week, one more month, another year. All right, but anyway, appreciate you all. Be safe out there. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are.